Hello and welcome back to PA Chalk Up. I'm your host Manny, and today we have Kosta. How we doing?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
Good. We've technically just run a whole podcast before we started filming, but if you let everyone know sort of who you are and how you got into S&C.
Yeah, so I'm Kosta Telegadas, as you previously said. I'm a strength and conditioning coach here on the tactical side, but my journey starts back in high school. So I had a strength coach in high school, Coach Rooney. I'll be honest, I wasn't running with the right crowd. I wasn't making good enough grades, but all basketball players had to take his class at the end of the day. And he was initially coming in from Arizona State. The boosters had built an entire weight room for him. And he really exposed me to, hey, dude, like, you're not tough enough to play basketball here. And I was on the freshman team. I got a nasty back injury. It was pretty brutal. So when I got in the off season, I decided, hey man, we're going to commit to the weight room 3 to 5 days a week. It's a voluntary thing, but it affects you making the team in high school. And I did it. I got stronger. I saw the results. I took his class seriously. I'd come to train after school if we didn't finish the lift, or even during summers, we would, train weights in the morning, have open gym at night for the skill session, and then come back in. My back got stronger and didn't hurt anymore. I wound up being able to be faster, more agile, jump higher, and be stronger and play better than I ever had in the past. So I saw the benefit of it. So just to give you reference, Manny, I went from being third string as the tallest and heaviest guy on the basketball team, right, to being sixth man off the bench. And I thought that was really cool. So I got to see it early on because I'm not a natural athlete. I have to fight for even getting down to 10% body fat. I have to grind and fight for that. That is not an easy task. Squatting over double my body weight, that was not an easy task, right? But that's where my journey starts. So I get on to university at Longwood University. I'm studying exercise science. I'm kind of looking at like, hey man, I really don't like physical therapy where they're doing little spider walks on the wall, with older, more broken populations, let's say. I find that to be very boring and nuanced. I thought personal training was more of sales, and at that time, I'm not a salesman. So I want to be in the nitty gritty. So I thought back to what made me happy, and that was being with Coach Rooney in the weight room. So I reached out to some local people in Richmond at Total Training, which is a has Bob Blanton as their strength coach. He's arguably the best strength coach in Central Virginia, if not on the East Coast. And he took me under his wing for a summer, let me train with him. And then I went back to university for my junior year and applied for an internship and interned at Longwood University for 2 years. I got a chance there to work with multiple teams. During the summers, I really fell in love with it. I continued working at Liberty University between junior and senior year, then went on to VCU to intern between um, my senior year and getting into grad school. I got accepted to grad school at the University of Miami in South Florida. Go Canes for anyone who's watching right now from South Florida. Great job beating Ohio State, but it was really, really cool to see.
306,
I'll
right?
say 305, 305, yeah.
305.
Yeah, but it was really, really cool to see everything that is transpired with just my career. I had a chance to wiggle my way my last 3 semesters there into a GA spot while I was getting my master's in strength conditioning and exercise physiology. But got a real interest in it there. Kind of realized the college sector wasn't for me, and I'm sure you've had a lot of collegiate strength and conditioning coaches on here, Manny. So you probably understand it's very fickle. If a head coach doesn't like you, you're gone. If one star athlete doesn't like you, you're gone. There's politics. I saw people get fired for doing the correct thing that should have been done and was the morally right thing to do. And that really aggravated me. So I started to reach out to people for jobs in either high school or tactical or the private sector. I wound up meeting Tom Palumbo, who works with a special forces group in the U.S. and met him right in the middle of my GA ship. And he kind of took me under his wing, and we wound up going and staying in touch. And he was just like, kid, I've been at Pittsburgh Pirates, MLB organization, University of Georgia, Ohio State, all these major institutions. He says, I've never loved my job more than it is right now. So I was like, well, this guy is, closing in on his 50s, right? Might even be in him at this point. I should probably listen to him. He's been in the game almost 25, 30 years. So he's still to this day is one of my favorite mentors I've ever had. And he encouraged me to look at the tactical side. Typically, you need experience to get in there, to get on one of those contracts, no matter who it's with, whether it's fire, police, etc. GA is not enough to suffice. So I wound up taking a job with Exos when I got done at university and went up to Detroit, Michigan. So I'm going from Richmond, Virginia, where I'm initially from, to Miami, Florida, up to Detroit, Michigan, up near Canada, right? So very different environment, change of scenery. and wound up really liking working with some of the tactical guys I got to work with there. I worked with Gen Pop starting off, then got put on NFL Combine and a couple other college and high school sports teams. And it was really fun. COVID hit, but right before COVID hit, after a year and a half, almost 2 years, I believe, I wound up coming down to back home to Virginia and got on my first tactical contract. Right, it was kind of a miracle sent from God, man. So did that really well for about 2 years out in the Norfolk area, and then got promoted to come overseas, and now I'm here living my dream in Europe, brother.
Love it. With everything that you've experienced and everything that you're now seeing in the industry, what is currently like really firing you up about being in this industry? This is just a quick plug to announce that on the 7th of February, I will be speaking at a webinar for the Italian Strength and Conditioning Society. My topic is leadership and soft skills in high performance sport. The webinar will be hosted at 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. GMT +1. You can get access to the webinar through the link in the description. And by taking part of this webinar, you will get 1 educational credit.
Man, I think it's a number of things. I think it's really cool to see a lot of the younger generation wake up. It's kind of how I woke up because when I did it, looking at tactical was kind of taboo. You're not coming back to college. You're gonna be blackballed. You're gonna be this coach who left and isn't gonna ever have a chance to come back, and it's very frustrating when you look at it that way. So I took a risk on myself. I had a lot of people, every time strength coaches said, oh, we're at the fork in the road, turn right. Well, I went left because left sounded better. And I grew up in an upper middle class household or middle class household, depending on the year, right? So I understood economics, paying back loans. My parents were very big on teaching me about investment and savings, etc. And I realized if I follow the advice of these strength coaches, I'm never going to be able to save any money. But with these tactical jobs, you go from working 80 hours a week in the college sector in season and being bullied by head coaches or by head strength coaches, or maybe just some kind of toxic leadership is very present in our field, like you and I know. But you can go back down and work 40 hours a week, make close to 1.5 to 2 times the amount of money you make starting, and then have a chance to get in early, right? And now it's blown up where you have companies like O2X, you have different government contracts coming up with several contractors. You have companies like Exos also putting in contract bids for stuff with fire, police or military, whatever it may be. So there's this abundance of options. And I think if you're going to summarize my life goal that's firing me up now to answer your question in a long-winded answer, it's to completely dismantle the collegiate strength and conditioning system in America. I want so many coaches to come over to tactical or to private sector or to high school to a degree where the collegiate strength and conditioning system has to either die or completely be overhauled to keep coaches there. Because paying someone $30,000 a year with no room and board and no benefits and having you live in the Pacific Northwest or the Northeast in America, it's ridiculous. You want 10 years experience and a master's degree and they can't even live? No, not happening. Especially with post-COVID inflation. I know you guys have felt it over in the UK and we felt it in America too. So how do you do that? Well, you put coaches in better opportunities. And every coach that's reached out to me, they've either had a chance to interview or they've gotten connected with other chances to interview. My mission is to bring as many of those great coaches from college that are open-minded and want to have a good career and a good family life, bring them over here and dismantle the collegiate strength and conditioning side of things.
So with everything that obviously I do, and some of the backgrounds that I'm working on, I think that's one thing that I'm seeing a lot of is coaches wanting to have more financial freedom and more time with family. So like these collegiate strength coaches, which I love everyone that's been on the podcast, and I have a lot of time for everyone that has been on. But like that's now conversations I'm having. It's like, okay, unless you're at like Power 4 unis and the best sports for those universities as well, because you can be in a Power 4, but if you've got rowing and say like Texas, it's not going to be a great team. Like it just not. So like, are those coaches making the same as someone in the private sector that's working less than half of the hours, in charge of their schedule? They can spend the weekend with their family. They can spend however long they want with doing whatever they want. So like, I am seeing this slow shift of like coaches being in the collegiate setting to be like, okay, like, yes, the start of it is brutal because, like, we can't talk about starting a company and just be easy because, like, there's growing pains in there. But, like, I am slightly seeing this shift of, like, okay, like, what can I do now as a collegiate when I'm safe to set myself up for when I'm out? So, like, that's a conversation I'm having now is, like, while you have the security of a job just now, start doing little bits so that that jump is not as harsh. That pivot isn't as harsh. So, like, and, like, again, I love Team Builder. Team Builder is one of the biggest sponsors of this podcast, and that's something that Hewitt has always said. Like, you can work on your own business. I have zero issues with
Mhm.
that. Use us as a way to do whatever you need to do. So, like, that to me now, everything that I do, I always include Team Builder because, like, for me, it's like
Mhm.
they've been so helpful to me and my business that, like, anything that I now put through, it runs through them first. Like, hey, I've got this opportunity. What can you do? Well, how much involvement would you just want to do it? So, like, anything that I do, they're involved in, and because I do what I say, they see the return, and then they're able to, like, put more back into me because it's like it's a worthwhile avenue to follow and chase. So it's like this shift is happening, and we should be entitled to earn more than minimum wage. Like, we're graduates. Like, we've got a fucking degree. Like, we should be worth it.
Well, and can I kind of build off that too, Manny?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I mean, even going back to like coaches taking those baby steps, you need to start early, and I would recommend getting you to a job that is 40 hours a week only. That way, you're used to working 70 to 80.
Yeah.
So you get a slightly better salary, right, for the time that you spend. And then on top of that, you can take that extra 20 hours and still work up to 60 hours a week if you want, and that's going to help build your career on the side. And you mentioned Team Builder. I love and I met him at the NSCA National Conference in DC. We wound up staying in touch, and he has allowed me to become a constant contributor for them on their blog and has done a lot of different work, whether it's, you know, courses that I've made for them, all the way to ebooks that I've helped written. And they even connected us, right? Rachel connected us.
Yep. Shout out to Rachel and Tom.
Shout out to y'all, man. You guys are awesome. So I will say that if you just show people in business that you're willing to do the work as well, even as a 1099 contractor, they will keep coming back. Like Rachel hits me up for blogs every other month because, well, I've given it to her on time. If I say it's going to be there in 2 weeks, it's going to be there in 2 weeks. If it's not, I let her have a little heads up and say, hey, I'm going to be a little delayed. Maybe I'm in London with my girlfriend right now and flight was delayed and, I can't get it to you tonight. I just want to run the final checks. But they appreciate that. So I think a lot of coaches, when it comes to business etiquette, nobody cares how good you are when it comes to your knowledge and strength and conditioning if you can't provide a return on investment and understand professional relationships. I know plenty of people, they say, oh, yeah, coach, I really want to write a blog. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, send it to me. Let's see it. And it takes them 3 months to get it to me. I'm like, dude, that's unacceptable.
Mm.
And it's something where if you just deliver stuff on time, you're going to have a much better reputation. You're going to be able to have more people referred to you because of that, i.e., how we met, right? And then on top of that, just being able to go out there and be a good person. If nobody likes you, it doesn't matter how smart you are. And that's one of the reasons why you and I like working with Team Builder because they're really good to us. We're really good to them. There's a professional relationship, and they also take care of us too, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I think something that you've just said is like, no one cares how good you are if you're an asshole. And, like, there's been a couple times now where people have reached out to me, and I've had to be a little bit more careful in 2025 with who I bring on because of this. Because, like, again, I just like talking to people, but I always hope that people's intentions are the same as mine, is to watch the industry grow and help where they can. Now, that's also not a reality all the time. And I was very naive at the beginning. So there has been episodes where the person was just more interested in being on the podcast than actually, like, partaking in the podcast.
Okay.
So it's like now I have to understand that, like, I'm in a position where people do listen to the podcast and, like, what I say sometimes matters more than I think. So, like, who I have on is then now a reflection of myself and my message as well. And this is the thing that I always try and stress is like, I don't care if a coach disagree with me. I welcome that because like I'm not the voice. I understand that there's a million and one ways to get to the same goal. Your way might be different than mine. Sick. Let me learn from it. Because I might come to a point where my stuff isn't working, but I still need to get that athlete to that place. So like, how can I get there? And I think this is where like these conversations come in with like yourself. Like I'm not business savvy. Like I've built things just because I like doing what I do. I have fun doing it, and I've just kept building up on it. But like, if I didn't have to do the business side, I'd be ecstatic. But like having a conversation with you and a recent situation that I've went through, that I phoned you
Hmm.
immediately, although it wasn't exactly what I was thinking at the time, but like I still ran it past you, and you said, okay, here's what you need to jot down. I did
Hmm.
that, sent it through. It ended up being that I was wrong, but it still made me think of, oh, now let's regroup, think about this in a bit more of a professional manner, and see how I can go from there.
Yeah, and how many times have you seen a coach? And once again, I'm guilty of this in my younger years, right? I'm 32 now. I came out here to Europe when I was 28, and I got in the tactical job when I was 26. I'm probably much more mature now at 32 than when I was 26 first starting off in tactical, right? And probably much more mature then than I was when I first started in the field at Longwood University as a sports performance intern at 20 years old, right? But that's the natural progression that it goes. And as you have had other coaches that are like minded to you, you've been able to bounce ideas off of them left and right and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm lost in the weeds. Can you just walk me through this for 30 minutes to an hour? Absolutely, hands down. And turns out it was the correct thing to do because it let you get clarity of thought before you sent that nasty email, right? Or before you sent a nasty text, or before you had a phone call, which once again, I'm guilty of doing. I've sent a bad email before and been like, oh, probably shouldn't have sent it that way. And it wound up costing me in the short term. But it was true and honest about how I was feeling at the time. But as you and I get older, we get wiser, and we take that step back and we say, okay, I want to put this in a good reflection for myself, and I want to make sure that whoever is doing business with me appreciates it as well. So there are times, more recently, I'm going to have one of those conversations with something I'm working with on the side right here. So I'm actually glad we brought it up. So it reminds me to just once again take that step back, be professional, because they've kind of been dragging me on for a year right now. So it's one of those things where, hey man, we're either going to do this or we're not, and if we're not, that's fine. I just want to know. But that is part of this endeavor. But also, people want to work with good people. Like we said, nobody cares about how good you are if you're an asshole to everyone. If you ever watch Rick and Morty, there's a scene where Rick is correct about something, but Morty corrects him and he says, Rick, you might be right about this, but nobody wants to give you the glory about it because you treat them like shit.
Mm.
And it doesn't. And once again, Rick is 100% right in the scenario they're put in a little cartoon, but it doesn't matter. So I would just say be cognizant of that because it will affect your relationships. And there have been coaches who they reach out to me for an opportunity, and I can just hear it in their voice, their tonality. There's like strength coach lingo that I can tell that you and I probably won't get along, right? Because you just don't have an open mind for business, for other things. You're too worried about programming or what will the collegiate sector think of you. It's like, dude, you're missing the point already.
Yep. I think that's another reason why we connected a lot. Is like we're doing our individual things, but our goal is essentially the same. And I think that's what's awesome about this industry is like if it wasn't, and I think this is going back to Rachel and how she connected us. It's like she saw this
Yeah.
opportunity for two coaches that are similar minded, but I have no idea who they are, and she
Hmm.
put us together and be like, hey, have a conversation, see what happens. And I think our first phone call was like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
It was about 2 hours. Yeah, I remember that. That
Yeah,
was that was really cool because I felt like at that time I was like, oh, nice. There's another coach overseas who is not living in the country that they're in from the country of origin, right? So it's been really interesting to connect with that, and I think you and I can relate in a lot of ways on that. But I would just say once again, if you have the ability to provide value, make sure you're also a nice person to people, and bring some people up with you. Because the running joke I had with Connor Agnew on the Samson podcast that I did for Samson Exercise Equipment was, dude, bring them up with you because I may need a job from you one day.
yep,
Don't thank me, just hire me one day.
yeah. So as you know, I do a lot of work with ITASES, and
Hmm.
I was at their week long event they run, and one of the coaches there, she's a runner. She does like ultra marathons. She does wild stuff, and I was building out an Excel sheet for Strava and like inputting all your data so you can essentially get a better understanding of like your mileages, your tempos, like any data that you could get from a Strava. And I was like, oh, give me your email, I'll send it to you. She kind of stopped and was like, what do you mean? I was like, just give me your email and I'll send it to you. And she was like for free? I was like, yeah, like
Yeah.
there's no issue with it. And she was like, that's not how we do things in Italy. And I was like, well, guess what? There fucking will be.
Yeah.
So like,
Well, and
and
the world is like that.
yeah, and the thing I said is like, look, I don't know where I'll be in 10 years. I don't know where you'll be in 10 years, but I might be reaching out to you for a job. So like, if that means I give you this for free, and then 10 years down the line you still remember it, and you're like, oh yeah, I need money. Like, it would be a no brainer for me to be like, hey, I need some help. And like
Yeah.
that's how
And I hate.
relationships are built.
Yeah. Yeah. And can I build on that real quick too, man?
Of course.
So the thing that I think struggle with is when I see coaches now like, oh, I'm going to charge $100 for you to talk to me. That's ridiculous, man. This entire field has built off of phone calls and networking. I understand if you want to have consultations with potential clients, or if someone's just yapping you off at your ear in the pub or the bar. Like, yeah, we can go through and like, hey man, if you want to sit down with me, it's $100 an hour. Otherwise, please be quiet. I'm trying to enjoy my drink here. That's different. But when another coach comes to you and says, "Hey, I really am looking for some mentorship and some help here," please take them up. That is not a person you should charge. It's different if you want to create a conference that gives you CEUs and a ton of great speakers in a easy to get to location that people want to go to and learn from these speakers. That's a different concept, right? That's called building out a seminar, building out a conference, building out a webinar, whatever it may be. That you can charge for. But when you're charging people, especially younger coaches who aren't making any money, like we talked about from the intern side of things, the GA side of things, the collegiate side of things, I really view you as just a terrible human being because I know for a fact you probably called people for free too, just as I did coming up in the field. It's different if you're in business, but it's another thing if you're dealing with coaches. So if you're going to start charging those coaches, and there's some pretty popular coaches out there who are doing that, I think that's a really bad move. And I understand your time is worth money, but there are times and places where now those people can't access you, and they could be the ones in 5 to 10 years to really help you out with a big deal. All the coaches that answered the phone when I was younger, right? They all get opportunities to come in on the side business stuff with me right now. So that's I just want to say it matters to me when I see coaches do that because you should help those people out. And if like that coach in Italy, for example, what you're really hitting on is building an international network. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that is way more beneficial than just being in one side of the field, collegiate, tactical, professional, private sector, whatever it may be. So that's one thing. That's something I really actually would love to talk about with you
Yeah.
here too, if we have a chance today.
This is a quick shout out to our main sponsor on this channel, TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder is an all-in-one platform that hosts programs, questionnaires, testing, anything that you may need for your athlete's performance, you can host it in TeamBuilder. TeamBuilder also now has two different sides, which is OS and Practice. For more information on TeamBuilder, check out the link in the description. And if you use code PAChalkup all together, you will get a 30-day free trial. So we're back. I had to take a quick phone call, but we were essentially talking about international and sort of how these entities kind of sort of intertwine and go, and you could start building businesses, building these networks and connections to different avenues.
Yeah, yeah, and I think once again, one of the best things that I've ever had and better opportunities I've had is to come overseas and start to build out a network. Like once again, I got coaches in California, all the way to Florida and the East Coast, all the way out to London and even in the UK, such as yourself, and then all the way out to Dubai and Southeast Asia as well. So it's been very interesting to see whether it's an American coach who's out there or an international coach like yourself who is local in Great Britain. It's been really cool to see everything that has come of that. Because if I have, like once again, if a someone who needs to get in touch with a distributor, well, I got someone in Dubai for that. If they're interested in getting their education or exercise equipment out there, that's something you can talk about. If you have a need to go speak globally, oh, here's a guy who does that in London, or here's an example of how to do that in New York with these other companies. And I think one of the best things that coaches overlook, because how many times have you gone to a conference and if the guy's not a strength coach there, everyone just kind of ignores him? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad, right? So I'll tell you this. I was at the NSCA conference in Munich up in Germany last year, and a lot of people were ignoring this guy. And this guy was a multimillionaire. He lives out in Milan. His name's Dan Bassett, and he runs Bassett Biomechanics. And it's just insane to think that people would not give him a chance because he works in biomechanics. So that's when I really started to get curious, like, hey, what do you do? How does your technology interface with, the human performance industry? He was able to give me some great examples. And now we're having a business meeting coming up in Milan later this month. And it's really cool to think about that, hey, this guy's some big clients who I'm not going to name on air, but it's really, really, really cool to see how these adjacent industries, whether it's corporate wellness, biomechanics, even the tech sector like Vald, Team Builder, whoever, even other parts of the physical domains here, like physical therapists, or let's say like other. What's the other one? I'm trying to think right now off the top of my head. Bear with me. In sort of like HRV or health tracking technologies.
Like
All these
Polar,
companies,
Whoop,
like
yeah,
Polar, like Whoop, like I have one right now, that
Garmin.
can lead to that can lead to side opportunities, whether it's through an affiliate link commission or it's through a blog that you could write for them, or maybe they put on a human performance summit and now they have you as one of the keynote speakers and they're paying you 500 to $1,000 to do it, or they're flying you somewhere to go speak. I mean, these are opportunities that I think a lot of strength coaches miss out on because they don't want to look at adjacent industries or even completely other industries. Like I use this example all the time with younger coaches, but if you know who Brett Bartholomew is, he got paid, I
Yep.
believe it was 10 grand. Yeah, so he got paid 10 grand to go to Wells Fargo and give a 2-day seminar on corporate wellness and performance. And yet and people say, oh well, he's not a real strength coach. No, that's complete crap. He still has NFL clients he trains. If you even train one client, you're still a strength coach, in my opinion. And I think we're seeing strength and conditioning expand out to these other domains, right? Like corporate, like military, or like police and fire with tactical and that umbrella over there. You got high school. I mean, shoot, some schools in Michigan when I was up there had a middle school strength and conditioning coach. That is awesome because you're teaching the kids how to move at a young age. So this notion or this idea that, well, he's not a real strength coach if he doesn't work in college or professional, that's just ludicrous. It's absurd.
100%. And I think that's where a lot of now what S&C is, because like, okay, so I also have to clarify that when I'm talking S&C or a coach, there has to be a level of education in there, right? So in the UK specifically, it's very ungoverned. So say Jim from down the street can do a 2 weekend course and become a fitness instructor. That is not the same as being a strength coach. I will say that. But I think you're 100% right. With all these different domains, like if you have one client that pays you 50 a year, or you have 150 that pays you 50 a year, like you're still being a coach. Like you're still
Yeah.
in charge of every aspect of their training. And I think something that I'm obviously quite intrigued in, I'll like in our phone calls, like I always touch on this, is like the business side, as scary as it is, because like if again we're strength coaches, like I think of strength coaches, I still do think like we're just fucking meatheads that got a degree,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
We're interested in being in the weight room. That's why we did it. So it's like, how can we now like teach these business concepts and like help people and guide them? And I think this is where I've loved speaking to you, is like you break it down in a way that's simple. Like for me, affiliate links were always like, the fuck is that? Like I advertise for people and then I get some. How do I know that I'm getting all the money that I'm due? Like how is
Hmm.
this like actually working? And I think having conversations with you is like, okay, one, keep a cool head with
Hmm.
this, but like then how can I build out my business in a way that I can take time away?
Yeah, and I think for me, the way I've set it up to give you a practical example here, because I hate talking theory without giving
Mm.
some sort of example. The way I've set it up is I have a certain amount of like online training clients that I do, right? Specifically from the martial arts domain, from jiu-jitsu, from judo, from all these other different accounts, could be wrestling, whatever it may be. You charge them anywhere from, depending on the package you give them, 100 to 300 a month, right? And depending on how in depth you go with them. Then I've been able to do 1099 contract partnerships with, places like Koya just to do wellness reviews for certain police departments right now. And then there's other spots where, and that'll give me, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 a month, right? And then on top of that, writing for Team Builder, writing for, Simply Faster is another one I've picked up. That's another 170 in blogs for the month. And then, being able to work with Human Kinetics, I'm meeting with them next week to potentially expand our partnership with them. So you can go from the education side, you can go from a business deal and deliverable side, or an affiliate link side, or an online training side. Now, here's the thing. When I was learning from Kier, who was initially the founder of Strength Coach Network, he was very big on, hey man, you can't chase two rabbits, because the quote was, the man who chases two rabbits goes hungry, right? So when you're starting off, pick one, build off it until it's solid. So I had, I think up to, I think I had almost 12 online personal training clients. And I was like, this is enough, right? I'm getting somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 a month off this. Let me build this up into a partnership over here. So, and there's a speed coach I work with in Virginia Beach, and I know that may get a rep in strength and conditioning, but there are people who are legitimate speed coaches and track coaches, like from Altus as an example. But the key for that is, like, he doesn't know a ton on the strength and conditioning side. So we're good friends. So I've been able to help him build out his programs for him. He shows me a video of his gym. I build it out for him. I get, depending on how many teams we're working with, somewhere between 200 and 600 a month just from that. And it doesn't take that much time. And I help do the data reviews for him and educate his staff as part of those deals. So building out a deal, making sure deliverables are in there, and then what happens if failure to complete a deliverable is set, and then also understanding your states and locals laws. If you're in the United States, if you're international, whether it's international law, EU law like here in Europe, or business laws in the UK or Dubai or wherever you are globally, those are going to be big things to do. But it starts with building out that network. And I think one of the best things I did, I had a girl break my heart when I was living in Detroit, Michigan, right? And I called everybody. I mean, when you look at Donald Trump's book, Art of the Deal, the key thing, whether you like Trump or not, it's great business advice. Pick up the phone and call people. If someone got laid off, pick up the phone and call them and try to help them. If they got a promotion, pick up the phone and call them. If they had a big win in their career, pick up the phone and call them, right? If you know that you can help them out and they're struggling with something with their business, with whatever it is, and you can, create a deal out of it, pick up the phone and fricking call them. So those are examples of how to build out a business that you can get anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 a month off of. Guess what? I've just made more than your collegiate strength coach in America now on the side.
I think that's a great topic as well, and I don't think it's often discussed. Is like when you're building connections, like a small amount of favors can go you a long way. So, like for example, I was working with a social media manager, and the way that we worked it is like I did her programming, she did my social media. Like, again, we weren't making anything, but I got a service that I was desperately looking for, and she got
Mm-hmm.
the benefits from it too. So it's like a deal doesn't always also have to make paper immediately,
No, not at all.
right?
Yeah, you're
So
100% right.
it's understanding like how deals can be made with what you have. Like, so as a struggling strength and conditioning coach, if you know a physio, like I have clients that are injured, let me fucking send it to you. If you're good,
Yeah,
I'll send it to
yeah,
you. And then when she starts having people who are no longer in the PT realm, she can send them to me. I can strengthen them up more. So it's
yeah,
like as a new coach, look for those avenues as well. It's like it's not always about like how much money can I make. Like it's great, but you also have to deal with what, like this podcast. It started on favors. Coach Mark told me, "Hey, I need you to start a podcast immediately." Took me a year to set everything up. I did it.
mm-hmm.
I'm here now. But like a lot of the start was just like me. Like I've gotten so many no's from coaches. Like those coaches are reaching back out and they're like, "Hey, can I come on your podcast?" It's like you never know where these small interactions are going to benefit you. So it's like always put that energy into them.
Yeah, and Coach Mack was one of the first few guys I talked to, and I read CEO Strength Coach. And he actually, I'm sorry, no, excuse me. I met him at a conference and said I really wanted to read his book, but I didn't have the money. And he actually sent me a free copy of it. I remember that. And I will always be grateful because that, plus what was in my master's program with Dr. Brian Biagioli at the University of Miami, his goal was to break us of the traditional strength coach thinking. And it worked between that book, Strength Coach Network, and what I learned in Miami. It was awesome because now I can actually go through and say, okay, like, is there something to be gained out of this? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's to be built, whether it's someone who can put me in touch with somebody that I really want to get in touch with, and maybe I can do a favor for them to get their good graces. And once again, that's how the business world works. So all the purist strength coaches who say, well, I don't want to use people or this, it's not using people. This is how the business world works, right? You help me. What do you need? I can help you in return. This is how American capitalism, dominated the Western Hemisphere. And it's not perfect. It's not pure in its nature. But you have to understand this is how business relationships work. I guarantee you when Jamie Dimon, CEO of JP Morgan Chase, goes to meet the CEO of another bank and they're trying to help, or maybe he's going to the CEO of let's say a smaller bank and they want to merge with them, right? And absorb them into JP Morgan Chase. They've probably known each other for a while and helped each other out in certain areas. So it could be helping someone get a job. It could be putting in a good word for somebody. It could be connecting them with someone like Team Builder to write blogs or Human Kinetics to do presentations for them. So those avenues can really expand what you are doing on the business side.
Yeah. And I think like that's another thing that again we kind of need to talk about is with the collection of business and coaching side. Obviously, you're also like a full-time coach. You're with Attack. How do you go about like managing your time, managing all these different hats, and like how does that all sort of play out into your day to day, week to week, month to month?
Man, that is a great question. I would say go with your time management, and I will say build out your program templates ahead of time. So, in my role right now, which I can't talk too much about for contractual reasons, but I can give you the basics. It's a voluntary program. Individuals from Tactical can come in and train with me at any point, right? There's no in-doc phase. There's no phase where, hey, I'm going to have you for 12 weeks and then let you off to the wolves. Yeah, I will have you for maybe a week at most. You sit down as a consult with me, and we build off of that. So when I was back at my previous post on this contract, I wound up discussing, with the other strength coach, how we can build out this voluntary program. And we eventually decided, hey, man, having a 5-day a week master program can help build out, everything we need to hit in this for the next quarter, let's say. And then if the guys are busy, you can go down to a 3-day version of that with the most important supersets, conditioning, models, primary lifts, whatever you need to do. And then build a 2-day version off that 3-day. And that at least gets the guys in, gets them exposed to what you're doing. And that can take up a good chunk of your first year and a good chunk of your time too. But once you have all that set up, now you can go and be, okay, like I'm going to work 40 hours a week here. I'm going to train the people I have to train. I'm going to do the best I can in those 40 hours. And then from there, I'm going to build out, right? And I try not to go over 2.5, 3 hours. I do cap myself because I believe it's the long game. I think when I first started off, I was burning myself thin. And I'll try and do, hey, if I'm over lunch, at lunchtime is my time, I might write a paragraph of a blog. That is very easy to do. And if anyone says, oh, I don't have the time, yes, you do. You can finish one blog a week if you really just wrote a paragraph, put it through Grammarly, and maybe put it into Copilot, ChatGPT, or Claude to check for grammar error. If you don't know where to start, you can have AIs help generate a skeleton or an outline for you to save you time. And anyone a coach says, I don't want to do that, well, you're stupid because everyone's doing it. And I don't think that, as long as it's not writing the entire thing for you, you're fine. But if it can give you a skeleton, you can write a paragraph a day, that's going to help you out, right? That also goes for presentations as well. But at the same time, I will say after that 2.5 hours is up, hey, I'm on a phone call with my girlfriend or I'm on the mats in jiu-jitsu and like that's it, right? We cut it for the day. There will always be more work to do tomorrow or to do on the weekend or another podcast like this to hop on to discuss certain things. So when you're managing that time, throughout the day, your time is dedicated to programming and training the individuals here. You set up your systems. Another thing I do if guys want individualized programs to help me out is I have base weeks built out for every single phase for 4 weeks. We don't stay in a consistent phase for more than 12 to 16 weeks where we change up what our goals are or what we're training for, right? But also because it's a voluntary program, if guys are away or they're at training or maybe they're busy crammed down doing admin work, right? I can change that program whenever I want. So the way I do it is off Joe Ken's base load performance model. But instead of doing the deload week at the end on the fourth week, we'll go base. Let's say we're in a strength phase, right? Just keep it simple for the viewers. 5 by 5 is going to be our first week for the primary lifts plus 3 to 4 sets of accessories and some conditioning. Next week, we can do 6 sets of 5, right? So I do a volume overload. I don't like doing an intensity overload for them until I get to the third week, which is that performance week where I'll go, hey, 6 by 3 and up percentages 5% or have them go 15 pounds heavier, whatever it may be during that time. And then I'll repeat the base week for the deload week and have them add 5 pounds to everything because they've gotten better in those 3 weeks. Anyone who says they haven't, they definitely have. 5 pounds is not that much to ask. For your audience in the UK, about 2.2 kilos for that, right? So it's something that I think is very crucial, but keeping things practical. I also realized that when coaching these people, sometimes they just want different things. Some of them just want to bodybuild. That's fine. I have no problem with that as long as it's pushing us in the right direction. And there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat in the side of the field. Some guys love doing AMRAPs. Some guys really like CrossFit, and I've had to kind of like bridge them away from that, but give them a little more than what I would do for, let's say, an athlete. But I'm not working with athletes. I'm working with, a tactical population who's very different right now than in athletics. We're not running, 40-yard dashes and jumping 35, 40 inches in the sky, right, for our verticals. Their job is just to stay healthy, keep a good base of strength, keep a good base of GPP and conditioning, and be ready at a moment's notice. So to answer your question at the end of this, I would say like manage your time with systems in programming during your day job. Afterwards, decide what you want to do. I do jujitsu 3 days a week. I work on the side business for about 2 hours each day. I give my girlfriend a 30 to 60-minute call a night. Maybe we watch a little Netflix movie together because she's living in London and I'm living here. Managing your time appropriately is going to be your biggest way of doing it. And then also be willing to work on the weekends, especially like me. I'm in a long distance relationship. I have the ability to do this podcast with you on the weekend because I want to, and because it will help enhance the connections I get, and it will help enhance the opportunities that come from those.
I think that's also another aspect of business owning that I don't think people realize is like it's not also the conventional 9 to 5 every single day.
Hmm.
Like you can
Yeah.
set it up that way, but it will mean that your time is a bit more pushed for everything that you want to do. So like, I
Hmm.
mean, my fiance hates me sometimes when I'm like, hey, I need to sneak away for an hour or two. She's like, fine. But like, I think
I'm,
there's
I'm
value.
laughing because my girlfriend is the exact same way. She's like, "Why do you need to take this call? You're with me in London." Like, baby, I'm just gonna go on a walk real quick. I'll be back in like maybe an hour.
um, as like I don't know if you know who Ray Zingler is. I think we've spoken about him, but he he owns his own business, and his wife kind of does the admin side of it. And after she gave birth, she was straight on her laptop because like she also knows that like the only way that this business is going to progress is if we keep working at it. And it's like it's one of those sad realities that like yes, she could have taken it, but she also knew how important that email or that call was. But like it's also knowing like when to do those things, but also know when to relax. And I think something that you said before was like, how do we manage burnout and how do we manage like not getting to that point where you're so exhausted with running 100 miles an hour for 7 days a week for 2 3 months, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's like your time management. You have to be strict with, hey, Monday 9 to 8 I'm working, right? On the weekends, I now weekends I choose to stay off a little bit more. So like if I'll do work in the morning, and then all my time at the weekend is with my fiance, because like that's a boundary that we set for our relationship, and that's something that's not changed. And it's those things that help you not get to that burnout stage and help you actually still grow your business.
Yeah, yeah, and building off that too, I would say, having those mandatory cutoff points is great, like you said. But one of the perks for me being an American over here is, by the time I'm done with work at, 1700 or 5 p.m. local time, right? It's only, I believe it's It's only 11 a.m. Eastern time, which is awesome. And it's 8 a.m. right on the West Coast in America. So I will have the ability to take those calls during that time period because I'm geographically located more centrally around the globe, that I can take calls in Dubai or I can take calls all the way over in America, depending on where we're at. And there's certain people, like you said, like, know when your limit's up, but also know when you have to push a little bit. The example you gave of the coach's wife who was pregnant, right? She knows, hey, this call's probably pretty important. I got to take this. But she also probably knows, I'm going to push this off to tomorrow, or I'm going to push this off to next week and set up a time with you. So one of the things that I tell guys is there are, like if it's a big call where someone that can feed you clients, whether it's a doctor like or a PT that you had mentioned earlier, or even for me, certain heads of different organizations that want to feed me side clients, I know I can stay up till at least midnight to talk to them, worst comes to worst. I'm okay with that, right? I'm okay with taking the hour and a half of less sleep that I'll get to do that because I know the ROI that I'm going to get in the long run. Now, will that be forever? No. But in the interim, it's not a bad thing to do, but just make sure that you understand which calls place higher importance and which calls are more important to you. Like if it's going to bring you an extra $2,000 a month, my friend, you're staying up till midnight to take that call. That's a big contract, right? If it's, and once again, for a small time one-off strength coach running an LLC, right? But for someone who is like, with a big defense contractor or bank, let's say, JP Morgan in this case, they're not going to stay up to midnight to make that call. Just for $2,000? No. We're talking, 2 million. Yeah, definitely. But not for $2,000. So you just have to understand where that importance lies for you in your own personal time and your business.
100%. I also think that it's quite important to talk about like the international ways of being, and I think again to what you said, I'm just an hour behind you, so like I usually get my work done, like admin stuff or UK clients. I'll take from sort of 6 a.m. in the morning to about 2 p.m. Anytime after that is my American time. So like I've got
Yeah,
like 2, 3 to say 6, 7. That's my US time. Like I will take my calls, I'll do my podcasts at that time. And this is also another thing of the connection building is like a lot of the coaches that come on here are US based. And I've had US based experience where I was at the University of Washington with Coach Mack. I've got my European, and I think something that's not talked a lot about is like the differences between those two environments and how we can
hmm
fill those spots with our experience. And it's something that you were
yeah,
sort of talking about, and it's that how can I fit my skills into what is needed? And like again, so I'm US and UK experience, so I know European side heavy on the science, US side heavy on the coaching. So like how can I merge these two things to make sure that I bring a unique experience to the weight room when I'm there?
absolutely. And I think for Americans, we are very heavy on the coaching and we're really getting caught up to the science a lot more now. I actually will say the Australians have been the most impressive when I've chatted with them because they know how to take the science and break it down practically to a degree that I think American coaches, especially in American football, can't understand. Right?
Yep.
They are good with talking, the nerdy science with each other, but then when they get on the floor, like when I meet people in rugby, it's just hilarious. Like, yeah, mate, put that freaking ball on the ground, get a stronger back, maybe you won't fumble it next time, And it's like they're cold when they coach. They remind me of like an American football strength and conditioning coach, and that's not to say that there aren't really good coaches out there. There are, but when you compare apples to apples, the Australians have us beat, and I would say the Brits are kind of right there with us. But I will also say in Europe, especially in countries like France, Italy, and Spain, they're very heavy on the science, but a lot of times the people are not pushing themselves.
Mm.
Specifically, when you look at, as an American, we call it soccer, you guys call it football. But is something that I've seen notoriously, and even with like rugby, like there was a viral video of the French rugby team, and they were doing CrossFit, and it's like, what? This is one of the best rugby teams in the world, and you're doing this? So I will just say that it can be there can be a gap in the science in Europe as well, and some countries just don't put as much into it. Why do the Americans put so much into it? It was to beat the Soviet Union back in the day, right? And we took their coaches and when they defected and learned from them because they were 20, 30 years ahead of us at the time back in the 60s and 70s. So there is that time and place, but I always tell coaches if you can be the first one to bring your skill set into where you are. Like, great example. I was working with an Italian judo academy out here, right? And they had some very talented people, a lot of young prodigies, and they just didn't have any strength and conditioning programs. So they were getting hurt. So right before their big tournament, they would get hurt. Well, I started coming in for 3 years. We trained them. We had one kid nearly qualify for the Olympics team here in Italy because he's already great technically, which is what the sport primarily is. And he already understands how to be aggressive. All he needs is good strength and conditioning. But if coaches were to look at that program, they'd be like, this was for an elite 18 to 20-year-old judo athlete. I'm like, oh yeah, this was simple. 5 exercises, some plyos beforehand, a little bit of conditioning after. Because he's training 5 days a week with no off. They have like a 2 week off season in summer for Riposo in Italy. But it was just really interesting to see that. But if you can bring that in there, they started winning gold medals at every other tournament. That academy got put up on as one of the best academies in Italy. And it's not because of me, it's because of the talent and the coaching that's there. But I played a role in keeping them from getting injured and keeping them from plateauing, I think would be the better way to put it. But if you can just be the first somewhere, whether it's inside of a corporation for corporate wellness, in tactical, in martial arts, in athletics, and bring that skill set there, that's where a lot of the opportunity is because the power isn't being first. So, because if you're the first, you're associated with it nonstop. Like, why was Louis Simmons, in America known as the godfather of powerlifting? Because he got the Soviet text translated, had a crazy madman brain, did it himself, and then popularized it. Yes, you can make the steroids argument, but that's for anyone at that time.
Yeah.
So it's accommodating resistance, reverse hypers, dynamic effort, rep effort, max effort. Those all came from him. So when you look at those models, he was the first one to do it. Was it perfect? No, but he's given the credit for everyone that builds on it after. Same thing with Cal Dietz and Triphasic. Same thing with Joe Ken and Tier System with Total Body Training, right? And same thing for Coach Mack with CEO Strength Coach. He's one of the first guys to do that. So that's my epic rant for that side of
No,
things.
no. I think we've also previously talked about this, and it's you also have to understand the give and take in workouts and managing the complexity in the training. So I think the example that we were talking about on this phone call was the I don't know if I can say this, but so some of the
All right,
tasks
go ahead.
that you saw, people were doing
Hmm.
CrossFit, and it's like, is
Yeah,
it optimal? No, but it was getting them training, and I think
yeah.
that's also
It got
something
him in the
that
door.
yeah, I think that's also something that we need to understand is like it doesn't matter what gets them in the door. Like if that's something that they enjoy, who are we to be like, nah, you're not doing that, that doesn't work. Like, no, just build in
Sure, sure.
systems into CrossFit so that they can still
Hmm.
get everything that they need and still be able to do what they enjoy. So like I think we had discussed it. Like they were doing CrossFit, but instead of some of the rest time, we were doing mobility stuff with them. Or
Hmm. Yeah,
some other type of accessory work that made sure that they were protecting everything else from it.
yeah,
And to
yeah.
what you said, like if so there's this big thing of like social media now that these complex exercises, these chains, like everything that we see, like does a youth program need it?
Mm.
No. Like
Yeah, no.
build a solid squat. Start with a kettlebell.
Hmm.
Build up to like make
Hmm.
them earn that bar. I think like Coach AJ is the one that introduced this concept to me. It's like if my kid wants to touch a bar, they have to earn it. Like I'm not just going to give you a
Hmm.
bar because it's an easier exercise. No,
Hmm.
I'm going to build you kettlebells. I'm going to build you dumbbells, bands. I will use
Hmm.
everything else, and then when you're ready, when you can show me you're proficient at these movements, then you can get a barbell. And it's like the
Yeah, yeah.
complexity is like it doesn't need to be there if they've never lifted a day in their life. I'm not going to give
No,
day one or chains. Like, that's just fucking ludicrous to me.
absolutely. And on top of that, when you have a young guy going back to that judo academy, these guys couldn't squat more than a fourth halfway down in their range of motion. It's like, why am I going to give you a barbell squat? My goodness, I have okay, what how much kilo because it's in kilos over here for the American listeners. It's not in pounds. Like, okay, I got a 5 pound, sorry, excuse me, a 5 kilo dumbbell for goblet squat. That's all they could do at first, and I tempoed the living crap out of I had them go 6 seconds down, 2 second hold, 1 second up, right? But when they did it, I made sure they did it perfectly. We only did 3 to 4 reps. I didn't do the 1 by 20, what a lot of coaches do. I just made sure the reps they did were perfect. Once I felt comfortable with that, we put them under a barbell. And you know what's funny? Even with that, they started recovering better from their sessions on the mats. Two guys got promoted from brown belt to black belt, and one of them went off to potentially qualified, but he couldn't because of school, but he qualified for the Olympic trials for judo here in Italy, and it was really, really cool to see. But it also just showed me like, hey man, the tenure in the weight room does not equate to tenure in your sport, right? I'll give you an example. When I was at Miami, I had a chance to train Lonnie Walker and Bruce Brown my last year with men's basketball there. Both of them got drafted to the NBA. Bruce Brown was horrible in the weight room, was not strong, could not move, but he dropped 25 against Duke in the ACC rivalry that we had with them. So guess what? After that first year, yeah, he's going to the league probably. There was a ton of scouts at that game. Same thing with Lonnie. Lonnie came in with a decent base, but he wasn't the best lifter on the team, right? But they both went to the NBA. Our goal was just to keep them healthy enough to make it to the damn draft. That's it, right? And this is back before NIL and all that got involved, and I think that has ruined collegiate sports in America. But it is very interesting when you look at the difference between tenure and actual tactical execution in your sport or job.
I think that's another good point to bring up is like we're not these miracle workers. We're there to like bring longevity to what they want to do. And I think like I always tell my clients like I'm not here to make you the greatest in the world. I'm here to make sure that you last as long as possible. Because like in their terms, it's like, oh, so I can if I play at this level already, if I can get longer, I can get more money. Like that's more money under contract. So it's like it's an investment.
That's the goal.
Why play 5 years at your greatest when you can extend that to 10? Like that's what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at you to be like I'm not pushing you to be the next Kobe when you're not interested in that. I'm looking at how long can I give you extra. So again, and to what you said, like if people look at my programs, they're like, "Is this it?" Yeah, it doesn't fucking take a lot.
No, just good consistency, and you know this, but for the audience, especially if it's not strength coaches listening, consistency will beat, the perfect scientific program every day. My individuals that come in now, and some coaches may not like this, for the tactical side, we use up to 7% ranges. Like I'll go from 70 to 77% on the relative intensity chart and plot out the sets and reps that need to be there for them. Because some days I say, if you're feeling good, hit 77%, actually add 10 pounds because you're looking freaking great today, right? But other days they come in, they're exhausted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're going to stay no less than 70% today if you can avoid it. And if you're really looking like shit, we'll drive you back down to a regression that's, 10, 15 pounds less, or just go to dumbbells instead of a barbell. There's plenty of ways to do it. But what I found is, in tactical especially, you have to fall in love with those tiny gains over time,
Yep.
right? You're not going to have the big, once you get them even to an intermediate tenure, let's say if they've been training with you for a year and a half, 2 years, you will see real quick that the gains will plateau. You'll have to get more creative with the programming, but you can still get them to squat your body weight. But if he's one of my guys right now, he's 43 years old and he's a runner, right? He's a father of three, coaches baseball on the side, right? He doesn't want to do that, right? So he just wants to go run his marathon, stay healthy enough to run. And if coaches looked at his program and like, well, his bench hasn't improved. Yeah, he's running marathons in Greece and in the south of France, like here in Italy. Like he's not meant to have a good bench. I could care less as long as he has a healthy posterior chain, right? And his deadlift has improved and his belt squat has improved and he's gained a little bit of muscle mass to withstand the high volume of running that he's doing. Our phases for his primary lift literally look like, hey, dynamic. We'll go ISO for that belt squat, let's say, and then we switch it up back to dynamic again or add some small accommodating resistance, right? And
Yeah.
people will look at it like, but that's too easy. It's like, that's the point. He's a runner. He's not meant to go and do these things. So sometimes helping them get their outside activity better outside of tactical will also work. Because if you can do what you want them to do, what they need, and what they want, you will literally have the perfect program for tactical. Because it doesn't have to be great. Some guys, like I said, like bodybuilding. Other guys like Metcons. Other guys, said, hey, coach, I had a really bad experience when I was a Division I athlete back squatting and I got hurt. Cool. Will you at least give me some kind of squat? They'll say, well, what do you have? I'm like, well, front squat. Like, I'm a little nervous. Okay, how about the belt squat? Well, I could do that. Okay, fantastic. We'll do that. I've had so many guys start off on split squats before because it helps their back feel better. because they have back injuries from what they're doing. So it is something that if you can piece those pieces together to create a good program, it doesn't matter how you test it. As long as you, my big data point, yeah, sorry, my big data points for them are like, do you have the healthy spots that we need on your body that are consistent with injury, and are those going down? Okay. Then you have your big three lifts. You have your bench, squat, and deadlift, or a pressing variation, a squat variation, and a hinge variation. We do a maximal aerobic speed test for them to test their conditioning levels, and then body composition. And I do max pull ups or chin ups, whichever one is more comfortable for them. That is the KPIs that my program is built on, and it works simply, and it works great, and it always gives us a new goal to shoot for. And then by the time they leave me after 2 or 3 years, to go into their next place they're going to, they're like, man, we love that program.
No, so precisely to that, I have a corporate client who, like, their goal was simply to be fitter, and I asked, like, what does that mean to you? And they broke it down, and so prior to coming to me, she did the couch to 5K, that's something that she wanted to do. I was like, sick. We worked for 6 weeks. By the 6th week, she added 2 miles onto her run.
Wow.
Non-stop. And like, we didn't do anything fancy. Like, so what I did was, like, Monday and Wednesday, she was on a 3-day program. Monday to Wednesday was just like normal movement patterns, upper body, lower body. The third day, we did metabolic conditioning. So I do an adapted version of metabolic conditioning. So I pair an heavy exercise with a conditioning piece. So what I do, there's 8 rounds. So first is a squat pattern. So you'll go like a salt bike squat pattern. You'll then do a row and a hinge pattern. You'll then do a ski erg and pressing action, horizontal. You'll then do a salt bike rowing action, so like a horizontal pull. You'll then do the same conditioning format, but then you'll go upper body a vertical pull, upper body vertical push. You'll then do either a knee dominant movement or a gun show.
Ooh, love that. Okay.
That's the extent of it. And it's a 2 minute on, at 2 minutes total each one. So 2 minutes row, 2 minutes exercise. And I'll break that down. You can either do a 10-10, so 10 on, 10 off, or you can go 20 on, 10 off. Either way, you're doing 2 minutes. And then you switch to your exercise, switch back, and that's all we done. She increased 2 miles, and she was like, I didn't stop once. I didn't even, like, I could have kept going, but I was getting too far away from home, and it was getting dark.
Sure. I was getting too far away from home. That's awesome. But
No. So it was like, it's like, if people look at that program, and it wasn't complex. Like, she was also scared of touching a barbell because of some previous injuries. So like, I added barbell on 4 weeks onto the program, and even then it was just rows.
yeah. And building off that, you have even for my individuals right now, right? If they don't know how to move and they need bigger work capacity, I'll do 6 seconds down eccentrics on a barbell or dumbbell exercise or whatever regression of choice, right? I'll pair it with mobility typically, or a reciprocal movement that's either total body or reciprocal to the muscle groups that we're working. I'll do a hang from bar to decompress their spine once they're done with that primary block. And then I'll have them go into literally an EMOM, right? And the EMOM could be, let's say, 25 minutes, right? And it'll be, let's say that we just want to increase general work capacity, work on a bunch of other qualities too. So I'll have them go do EMOM 25 minutes. Minute 1 will be, 5 to 10 med ball slams, as an example here, right? They rest whatever time is left. And minute 2 could be some like chest supported dumbbell rows, as an example here. Then you could go on to minute 3. We could have, some core stability or either a carry in there. And then minutes 4 and 5, you can use the assault bike, the rower, whatever it may be, to get their heart rate up. And then that's 5 minutes done, and they just wait after each minute to complete that one and go on to the next minute exercise. And then their heart rate stays up because they're not stopping. Once that minute's up, you're on to the next. You're on to the next. I've been able to do that with a ton of different variations of models, but we have our power movement, strength movement of the other muscle groups we didn't hit that day, so like the chest supported rows as an example, core stability or grip strength or GPP with the carries or planks, and then two cardio exercises at the end. That has gotten guys more in shape coming in here and gotten them better body compositions and work capacity. And on top of that, the eccentrics at the beginning in the primary block, they'll actually help them move faster and become more aware of their movement and coordinated if they've never squatted before. So those are just examples of how to build up, even from anybody. This doesn't have to be just tactical. This could be Gen Pop with the corporate client you had, all the way to a professional athlete who just got fat in the off season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to make things as simple as possible is one of the best things you can do. And it doesn't have to be complex. Like when coaches read my programming, they get mad at me. I'm like, dude, you're overthinking it.
Mm-hmm.
You're overthinking it. Stop.
Yeah, you said something. You said two things very interesting just now, and I kind of want to go back to them and touch base on them. One of them was decompressing the spine after like a heavy loaded spine movement. Now,
Mm-hmm.
this is genius, and I love this industry for that because like sometimes it's so simple and it's staring you right in the face, like you overcomplicate it. My prime example on that is I was coaching at Washington and I was having a conversation with Coach Fink, who's a fucking genius, but he hates anything social media and
Of
being
course.
in the limelight. So it's very frustrating because I've wanted to speak to him on the podcast for years and he's just not into it. But I was having a conversation because he essentially like formatted all the programming of UW, and I was like, I pulled him aside. And I was like, hey, like, what's your main goals and considerations when you're programming? And like he said this so nonchalant, but it blew my mind. He was like, well, everything has to be balanced. Before every push, you have to
Yeah.
have a pull. And I was like I took a second. I was like, yeah, no shit. Like, why did I never think of that? But it was
Yeah, it's
like,
simple.
it was that. So like this now decompressing after a big spine loaded movement. Can you sort of break down how you came into this and how exactly you break that down?
Yeah, I mean, once again, I was dealing with a tactical population that suffers with a lot of lumbar spine injuries back then and even now, and a lot of them do. So this could be applicable to anyone from police, military, firefighter, whoever, right? Because you have some sort of compression on you at all times. So I would say that, like, we had a decent amount of guys who, they just, their backs would start not spasming, but you can tell it's a little bit tighter after that back squat, right? And they don't have strong cores. So something we would do is before the heavy lift, at the end of the warm up, we would go do a hang from bar or a GHD hang where they'll put their legs in the
Mm-hmm.
GHD and have their head to the floor and they'll just reach as far as they can, as long as there's no pain, right? If it coming up and down with the spinal flexion there. But the hang from bar or even the inversion table, I think is one of the best things. And I don't like to go more than, a minute on, minute off the inversion table. I'm sure there's a more advanced protocol out there somewhere, but it works. So you can bring it on the weight room floor with you, and guys can do it at the end of the workout or in between their sets, from the primary block to the conditioning or to the secondary block, whatever it may be. But I do put that on there. And even for the guys that don't use my programming here, because it's completely voluntary, we got about uh, 10 to 15% of the guys that don't like to use a strength coach. Okay, cool. Will you at least give me the decompression? Yeah, coach. Yeah, I can do that. Cool. And you know what? They're like, wow, I feel better. Stunning. And when you understand that compression over time, especially in their roles where they may be dehydrated, and dehydration affects the disc. Poor sleep will affect your quality of movement. Lack of recovery and high stress in those roles will affect your ability to perform in the gym. Sometimes just adding that in is like a little sprinkle on top of the icing on top of a cake, right? It's a little bit extra, but it does work and it does make them feel better at the end of the
100%. And I think that's a great because I work with a lot of police force just now, which
day.
I still find very
Yeah.
weird because like, well, the joke I do is now like if anything I do is illegal, I can be like, hey, this is what's happening. Can you let me off?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's
But it's
true.
it's interesting because like I never thought about the decompression. So obviously they have to wear a lot of gear. Now in the UK it's a stab-proof vest, and some can wear a belt, or they can have things attached to their vest. But like the common issue that I am presented with is like, okay, like my lower back and my back is generally just screwed. So like I've been taking account
Hmm.
into what weight on the belt and like what exercises I can do to sort of strengthen that area. So what I've come up with is like this little protocol of like Jefferson. Is it Jefferson? Yeah, yeah,
Jefferson
Jefferson's.
curls? Yeah.
Yeah, we do some like hip airplanes, some other
Hmm.
like hip strengthening exercises. But I've never thought about the decompressing element of it. If I can get them to hang for a little bit, that might be a good supplement to the already strengthening work. I'm gonna add that in.
No, you should, man. And I'll say this too, building off that, I'll give you my entire protocol for low back injuries right here. Literally, starting off, if there is an actual injury, right? I'll work with the physios, ATs, whoever it may be, docs, whoever we can surround that individual with to get a proper analysis, right? We're going to create a container of like, hey, Costa, here are your gray areas where you can push him if he feels good. Here's what you can do, and then here on the outskirts of this container is what you can't do, right? Do not touch these. Okay, copy. I can work with that, right? Because now I have a better understanding. I've shown them what we have in the weight room or what they have, even if it's a side business client, right? And you can work with them. So, medical staff first, get rehabilitated, support the rehabilitation. Once you get to the point where they're now on their own, right? If something is still a little twingy or maybe it bugs them a little bit, instead of doing a back squat, we can do a front rack split squat, right? Because when you're going to get into that split squat stance, less minimal spinal loading, right? Just make sure their form's good, their elbows can actually reach that rack position, or even like a goblet squat or dumbbell rear foot elevated split squat, something that can get you to that deeper range of motion, let you build up that stability from the ankle, knee, and hip, and also get that hip to relax on the leg that's put back up and get that contralateral glute to relax. Or sorry, excuse me, to contract, not relax, excuse me. And then from there, then you build them back up. Maybe it's a pit shark, maybe it's a heavy front squat, maybe it's using chains or a box to go back to from those times, but it depends on what equipment you have available. So you have rehab, you got that in between moment where there could be where you could regress them a little more, but just to be safe, and then you have the actual performance side of it as well. And then you can add in McGill Big Three, right? It's not just for physical therapists. Crazy, I know. I use it on a lot of our guys currently. And then on top of that, you have the GHD decompression, the bar hang, the um, the inversion table, and then core stability. But I will also say this: every time I got a back injury, this is Kosta Telegadas' personal experience. It's not, a general rule of thumb, but it was because I stopped doing real heavy core exercises, some kind of heavy back extension, some kind of proper GHD, some kind of oblique or Russian twists, leans, right? The cable oblique rotations that you can do, right? If you have the rope in your hand. When I started doing those again, my back started feeling better because I got a nasty back injury where have you ever seen Wolf of Wall Street?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you know the scene where Jordan Belfort, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, was like crawling out of the car and he's
Yeah.
high as crap on that, right? So and he's drunk and it's just like I had to crawl out of bed like that one day because the injury was so bad. I had to actually roll out of bed, fall on the floor, and crawl to the bathroom and work my way up the wall in the kitchen cabinet to feel better. So when I tell people like do your heavy core work as well, I think PTs and certain companies in human performance and strength and conditioning have made that evil. It is not. The
Mm-hmm.
best coaches I know still do heavy sit-ups, still do Russian twists. Is it optimal? No. Does it work? Yes. I think any coach, if you can, get the Sornex back attack machine. That is one of the best machines I've ever used in my entire life because your feet are grounded in the floor and you can put a band on it so there's constant tension. But I would get off of that when I had a bad spine and I would feel better. But another reason these people have injuries is either what they're doing on the job, or think about it like this for the police officer example. What are they doing all day? They're sitting with kit on if they're out on patrol, right? Being in that deep hip flexion position. You're going to have the hip extensors, your glutes primarily, and the low back be in a flexed position. That's not healthy for, or sorry, be in an extended position and then your hips are in a flex position. That's not going to be healthy for them if they're doing that for 5, 6, 7 hours a day. Have you ever you've been on a long flight to any number of places, I'm sure. After about 4 or 5 hours, you're probably feeling a little tight in that seat, especially if you're on Ryanair and you didn't pay for the extra leg room, right? From all my yeah, for all my Europeans out there, they're going to understand that one. But it's true. So just taking advantage of understanding what they're doing every day, taking that into effect, and going back out. So look at dehydration, the positions they're in every day, and then their previous history and what you can and can't do with them.
Nice. I think as well, like something you've just touched on it as well is like all systems can be adapted to your current situation. And I think that's a conversation that we were
100%.
having in the lobby is like, don't be married to this system that you don't know if it could be working better. So like, I think I've given this example a couple times, but like, so triphasic is brilliant because it goes through isometric,
It's amazing.
eccentric, concentric. But like, why not add a little bit of French contrast? We should look at our body movement as in like a bell curve. Like, it doesn't just go, this is the only way you can do it. Like, if you can
Hmm.
protect your body isometrically, that's one range. And I always give this example. It's like, think about the bicep, right? So if your bicep here to sort of in here, right?
Hmm.
Why would I not want to strengthen both sides, right? So like, I always look at strength as like, okay, let me expose multiple ranges, because like, if I'm
Yeah.
strong all round, I'm going to be better than someone that's stronger just on one side. I can last longer than them because my body is more capable of tolerating strengths at different movements and at different speeds. So not only am I strong here to here, but now I can be twitchy here and I can be twitchy here. So if I can be twitchy in
Hmm.
both, I'm more protected from injuries. And it goes
Yeah,
back to that balance
absolutely.
situation that we were talking about. It's like athletes need, again, no sport happens slowly, right?
No, none. Yeah.
So you have to have a level of protection during those fast movements.
Yeah, and I think too, a lot of people don't understand that, once again, like going back to your example, what you're really trying to say is don't get limited in systems, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I only came into tactical with, let's say, as an example, 4 or 5 systems that I knew really well. Now I got probably upwards of 15, right? And I can pull from each and create a great program out of that. But I was forced when I started tactical to look at my program and be like, hey, this was great for sport or for people who were coming in 3 days a week and you knew the times they were coming in. These people, you don't know when they're going to come in next. A lot of them come in 4 days a week. A lot of them come in 5 days a week. Some only come in 2 days a week. Some of them, their schedule changes and it's 2, 3, and 5. Like we talked about that plan earlier. So, what plan are you running that can be flexible, adaptable, and can you cut the fat off of it? Here's a great example for you that we do is we actually took it a step further with the previous coach I was with. And we cut our workout session, right? If you have all the different alpha, bravo, Charlie, delta blocks, supersets laid out, right? We would pick the ones, what was the best intent for the day? If you had 20 minutes, we'd label the warm up, the cool down, and the primary lifts and whatever you had to hit in red. So, hey, 20, 25 minutes, you're going to do everything in red on the Excel sheet today that we're putting up on the monitor. If you have 40 to 45 minutes, we're going to do everything in red and blue. And then if you have a whole hour, we'll do everything in red, blue, and black. But the hour was our cap for the big program up on the board. Now, when guys did individualized training plans, that's different. But when we looked at that, that saved people because sometimes really the AMRAP that was 20 minutes was the intent for that day. So that got put in the red, and we didn't do the barbell lifts, right? We didn't do the dynamic effort work that day because the intent was conditioning. So that was something that I think was a big turning point for me. It was like, okay, well, if a guy comes in, he can still train. It's a way of auto regulation, especially if he's tired. You can also use it if he doesn't have the time. If he's just tired and gas, and he's going to do better on the AMRAP than he would on, a 5x5 back squat, right? That's fantastic because the goal is not the back squat for him. Let's say it was keeping the conditioning levels up. You now have a way to break that down for them to where it's digestible. Because a big complaint that I hear in tactical is the coach has me doing an hour 15 to hour and a half workouts. I don't have that kind of time with my day job, my responsibilities, what I need to be prepared for at a moment's notice. That's something coaches can take into the private sector, into corporate, into athletics, and cut it down because too many times I find that coaches are not prepared for that. And I wasn't. I got caught with my pants down, right? So I had to go back to the drawing board, humble myself, and readjust the program. But it's your ability to create a program that is adaptable, adjustable. You can change at a moment's notice, right? Trim the fat. How fast can you trim the fat? So just building off that, I think, was the biggest thing in my career and understanding what works.
hmm I think as well that's another element of it. It's like when you are trimming this fat and things can change. So like sometimes a client may or an athlete may only have 2 slots in the week. Some may only have one
Hmm.
slot in the week. Some might have five. Some might have, and this can change week to week. But like our ability to change and adapt to that. Like if I know my clients have a stretch of just 2 sessions a week, it's fucking whole body for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to waste time doing lower body and upper body because I need them to hit those stimuluses. If they have five, then I can play a lot around a little bit, but there might still be some limitations. Okay, they still may have like a 12-hour shift that I need to account for.
Yeah.
They might be on their
Yeah.
feet. They might be doing whatever, but like, it's how can I then. And so I think this is the fun part for me, is like it's ever changing. Like, it doesn't just stay the same all the time, and people have real lives. It doesn't always revolve around the gym. So it's like, how can I change and adapt to their occurrences? And I always have a go at coaches that, and again, I'm also a little bit opinionated. I don't think that as a coach you dictate their goals.
No, you don't.
It's up to them what their goals are. I have to drop my ego and fit around them. And I think a great example is this. There was a, we'll say, a very elite coach that posted and said you should not allow your athletes or your clients to have vain styled goals. They shouldn't want bigger biceps. They shouldn't want a bigger butt. They shouldn't want abs. And I'm like, the fuck's that got to do with you?
Yeah.
Like,
Like, shut up.
like if that's what they're wanting to go, I do have to let them know their limitations. Like, if you're a prop, your abs are going to look different. Like, it might just have a little bit more padding because I still need you to be 100 odd kilograms.
Yeah.
So like,
There were, sorry, go ahead. My bad.
no, it's just, it's like you have to be realistic with them also. But it's like, it's up to you to figure out a way to get them to their goal. Like, that is your whole job.
Yeah. If you look at certain Olympic weightlifters, right, as an example, not many of them have great aesthetics because they don't do a ton of conditioning, right?
Or
So
chest.
you're going to see those guys, or chest, exactly, because you want the internal rotators to be loose so you can put the
Yeah.
bar over your head, right? But that is part of the sport. If you look at certain things like, I'll say American football, right? You can have a variety of guys, right? You can have the big linemen who are, fat and pudgy and 70 to 325 pounds can move a mountain off that line, or you can have a wide receiver who needs to be fast and they need to have a better body composition, or you could have something like a quarterback whose job is not to be the strongest guy, just keep him healthy enough to throw the damn ball. So there, it just depends. But when you're in the private sector or you're in tactical in a voluntary program like I am, because you and I are in much more similar situations than people would think, you have to actually adapt with the person, right? Some guys, I think, could set records here for us, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe even records globally in powerlifting. But if they don't want to do it, there's no need to do it, right? So even with me in my career, like when I had to give up, Olympic weightlifting and competing, I realized, hey, squatting over double body weight probably ain't going to happen much more. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing with deadlifting over double body weight. I wound up actually sitting down and having like that moment of like, who am I without, you know, my PRs, right? Like without, like Cookie Monster, right? Without my cookie, I'm only a monster, right? So it's it's that kind of conversation, but understanding that that's going to change throughout life. Manny, as like I said, I'm 32 years old. I'm not squatting the roof away anymore. I
Mm-hmm.
like to still squat 400 pounds, right? Do some accommodating resistance, right? But I still like to feel healthy enough to go roll in the jiu-jitsu mats and get my skills up to maybe compete again one day, having something to challenge me. Because after 12 years of lifting, I got bored.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was saying at the start as well. Our goals as strength coaches should change year to year. Like, if you're really into your strength building, sick. If you're really into your running,
Amazing.
sick. But like, so for me, when I'm working out, I'm thinking of like, if it's a do or die situation, can I handle it? Like, if I need to run, can I handle it? If I need to protect my family, can I handle it? And I think it's like all these, like, we shouldn't also look at one sport and just like base our things off it. Because like, it's going to change. Like, I'm not going to have my elite sprinters on a powerlifting or a bodybuilding program. The powerlifting might help a little bit, but like, I need them to be fast. Like, not just
Yeah.
that, like, these races, you can have like 5 races in a single day. So like, does he have, or does she have the stamina to go 100% for 5 rounds? Like,
Hmm.
how quick is the turnaround time for them? Like, these are all things that we need to think about. And like, if I just base my program off like a pure strength block for them, like, the potential to be explosive is going to be a bit limited. I actually just had a conversation with Ryan Crossan, who I was at UW with, but he ran for Baylor. He's just been on a strength block, but like now he's looking at going back into a power block or an explosive block, and he's like, I wonder what happens. And I told him, like, I once had a sprint. I still have him, but his goals has changed a little bit. But after we introduced a power block and then got him a little bit heavier and then done some explosive stuff with him, he was still at the same weight, but he was able to move a lot faster and a lot better. Like,
He had more muscle mass.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
it's not this concept of like big means slow. You have to adapt things to how they are, and it's like that's why I love about this industry. Like, there's not one way of doing it.
And sometimes it's up to the coach to actually analyze. Like when I was at a certain university, the sprinters put on muscle so fast, right? We couldn't physiologically understand it. They weren't overeating. They were putting on so much muscle so quick and they were getting so strong that actually sprinting was starting to be affected, even though they were getting stronger, right? So what did we do? We took them down to isometrics, right, to lower the load. And then we just had them explode off the blocks and do a lot more plyometric exercises and certain sprint work. And their conditioning is out on the track and field because they're sprinters. We would just complement whatever the coach was doing at the time. But sometimes solving that issue would be like, okay, we're going to dive down to those isometrics. We're going to actually drive in and have those plyometrics set for them, and then do some recovery work for their ankles, knees, and hips, and maybe some of their low back stuff. So it was just a matter of looking at the issue and be like, okay, how much time do we have? Of the three ways I know to solve this, which one is the most time cognizant and the most efficient? Okay, option B is the most. We chose that. But we had several options. We just chose the one that fit the best for this moment. We were in college, so we could tell them what to do, and the coaches were fully bought in, and so were the athletes. So it makes it easier, right? But maybe option C would have worked for another coach with different times, different relationships with the coaches and athletes, different tenures they're dealing with, etc. There's no one size fits all, but everything works if applied.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's what's great about being able to speak to different coaches. Like, you get exposed to different ways of doing it. With everything that you do, like, what's the sort of hardest lesson you've had to endure on, like, being adaptable, and like how did you manage your way around that?
I'll say this, the hardest lesson I've had to endure, some of the greatest advice I got when I started in tactical was a young guy who was about 26 and myself. He had just gotten to where we were working on as one of the guys that I was working with. Let's just say that, right? He said, Kosta, you're a fantastic strength coach, but just so you know about what's going on here. And he wasn't coming at me. He was just telling me because you're young and I'm young and here's what I'm learning as well. Best thing you can do is shut the fuck up. Right? Not in a matter of like I'm talking too much and I'm being an asshole. No, he's just doing this preemptively because he's learning it as we go along. And I said, well, tell me more. He says, dude, first 30 days, shut the fuck up. Right? Do your job, do it well, earn the respect of people. You're new here. We don't care how many great athletes you've coached. Right? And not that I was saying that out loud, but that was just a good general thumb when going to the side as, an outsider. Because strength coaches were outsiders when coming into the tactical profession. Day two, if there's a question being asked and nobody knows the answer and you know the answer, then you can raise your hand. Just as a gauge, right? Gauge that out. And by 90 days, or sorry, not day two, excuse me, 60 days in, you can do that. So 30 days, 60 days. By 90 days, you can have an opinion, and that's one layer of trust. And your goal, that starts all back over. Next 30 days, shut up right after that. It's just like that. So just learning how to go through that 30, 60, 90-day transition and then building that layer of trust and then stacking that over, let's say, a year, right? You're going to be a very trustworthy person because once again, it goes back to that relationship piece. If people don't trust you and they don't like you, it's not going to matter how good you are, right? And that's why I think a lot of collegiate coaches, when they come on this side of the field, they really struggle because they bring in that power four football mentality. Oh yeah, we're going to get the guys big and strong and let's go. I quickly realized that did not work in my first 2 to 3 weeks. I will say learning how to not take stuff personally. You're going to get some pretty direct feedback, right? And I think that is like, hey, coach, I hate this. And guys on this side of the field, they speak very bluntly. It's not personal. It's just how it goes. Hey, coach, I freaking hate this. Can we change this? Sure. What would you do? That is the correct answer to that question, right? I don't like back squatting. This is too much time for me. I don't like this. Now you can push after a certain degree with those layers of trust that are built up, saying, I think you're being a baby right now because you've earned the right to do that. You've earned the right to criticize people here. That's not to say to take any abuse, but learning when you can push, when you can pull after building those layers of trust is the biggest thing when coming to tactical. So for me, it wasn't necessarily programming. It was learning how to manage personalities. It was learning how to build relationships from scratch as an outsider, and then learning how to build trust with people and the organization. Because it doesn't just go to the people you're working with, it goes to the medical team, it goes to leadership, it goes to other departments that you work with that may be in finance or accounting or scheduling, right? A scheduling shop can change everything for you, you know? So it's just one of those things in tactical that people don't think about. Only about 30 to 40% of my job is programming and coaching. The rest is just building relationships and admin.
100%. To piggyback off that, um, they also don't have to be there. And them being there or not also depends on how much you're getting paid. So,
Yeah,
like, whereas collegiate athletes have to be there, it's mandatory most of the time. When you're more in the private sector, like, they don't have to be there. And how you engage that then determines how much you're getting paid on the long term.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
if an athlete or a client comes up to me and it's like, hey, coach, not a fan of squats, back squats. And I was like, okay, that's fine. Let's do this instead. And then it goes back to that layering. Like, I
Hmm.
will try and build them back up to some sort of heavy squat in a different way. Because, like, guess what? If they're not there, I'm not getting paid. So
No, 100%.
it's really up to them what they want to do. And I always give them liberty of like, okay, we can either do this or we could do this. What do you want?
Hmm.
Because that's another layer of built-in or buy-in that you can get from them. Is like coach actually cares about what I want and why I want to do. So like, let me make sure that he knows everything that I like and don't like. Because again, we're
100%.
not. It's not the program isn't for us. Like it's for them.
No, no, yeah. It's going to help them become a better at their job and better with their goals they want to do. And that, at the end of the day, is far more important for your success on this side. Like, yes, should you have anatomy and physiology figured out? Should you have exercise physiology and a little bit of biomechanics figured out? Have an understanding of how to apply stress in programming and periodize or create a plan, right? Yes, you need to have all those things checked marked before you come over here. But I will say that your ability to build relationships is going to be the difference on whether you're a great tactical strength and conditioning coach or a shit one at the same time. So
Mm-hmm.
it it just it matters. I mean, how you carry yourself in a meeting, right? If I have a very high level admin come in and I'm not dressed up, that's a bad sign. They're going to view that as like, why are you not dressed up in a suit and tie? You can't just show up to the meeting like in college in sweatpants and a t-shirt. It's not going to work like that. So
Yeah.
understanding that you are playing a role beyond being a strength coach, right? Also understanding how to work with your staff, working with your staff members too. I've had great ATs that I've worked with. I've had great PTs that I've worked with. I've also had people with God complexes that I would never work with
Mm-hmm.
again for a day in my life. You can't pay me enough to work with them, right? So it just depends on how you manage those conversations earlier on, typically determines that relationship. That's not to say that certain things aren't people's fault or blame, right? But if you take extreme ownership within yourself, you can actually create a very good environment for people. Now, some people don't like that. Some people don't like being held accountable. On this side of the field, they're going to quickly be weeded out because this whole job is being accountable. If you have, let's say, a special operations unit, those dudes always say, we don't pick the best people to come to SEAL Team 6 or Delta, right? Pick the guys who are obviously good enough to be there. There needs to be a skill set there. But if you have an ego that's through the roof and you're not going to work with us, we'll kick you out so quickly because our lives depend on this. We go on very dangerous missions. Same thing with the firefighters in California that put out those massive wildland fires. It's more about trust than it is about actual academics and your ability to perform sometimes. Because they've always said we'd rather have a guy with high trust, moderate skill and have a guy with low trust, extremely top tier skill with the job right now. Understanding that that actually matters so much more, especially if you're breaching a door, putting out a fire, saving someone's life. It just comes down to that trust piece.
100%. And on that, to sort of build on that, what would be some advice you would give new strength coaches or coaches coming into the industry?
I would just say be kind. Honestly, be adaptable. You're going to make mistakes. right? That's going to happen. I don't know a single every strength coach that gets up on that stage and says, "We've never made a mistake in our entire career and we always did this," and presents that front. Well, I like something that's real and authentic and vulnerable. Manny, you've probably made mistakes in your career. I've definitely made mistakes in my career, right? I've had a conversation with someone that, I shouldn't have dropped that curse word in that conversation. That probably wasn't the smart thing to do, right? Or maybe if I had set this relationship standard earlier with this athlete or this AT or this coworker, things could have gotten better, right? Now, we do put ownership on the individual, but building those relationships is critical, bar none. I would say also when you call a coach, like, please ask questions and ask good questions, right? But don't, I hate the idea in strength and conditioning that people have to say, oh, coach, yeah, coach, absolutely, coach, yes, sir, coach. It's like, no, dude, my name's Costa. Two guys at a bar or a pub having a cocktail or a beer. Please be more like, be formal at first. Be, hey man, I really wanted to connect with you. Coach so and so recommended you. And then as the conversation goes on, I find that a lot of people don't know how to get out of that typical strength coach lingo. There's been multiple times when people are like, dude, relax. I don't want you to suck up to me or brown nose me, right? Just talk to me as a person. If you have questions, I would love to help. And I try to be very friendly when doing that. So, as an example for a young strength coach, let's say you get a bunch of other coaches following you on Instagram. Reach out to them and say, thank you for the follow. Let me know if you need anything. I do that with every single coach that follows me on Instagram because it kills that ego right off the bat. Because I know a lot of younger coaches that are scared to engage with me, just like I was scared to go up and talk to Ron McKeefrey when I first met him in the Tampa clinic that we went to in Florida. So being kind, building that relationship, asking good questions, and then don't be afraid to ask if you can connect me with anybody. And if those coaches are too stubborn or say, "Well, I'm too protective of my network to let that happen," and they tilt their nose up like that at you, please do not engage with them anymore. By that point, understand who you can work with, who you can't work with, and part of the old guard, in my opinion, in strength and conditioning needs to die. Not in a physical sense, but that mentality needs to die. I will say, have a base understanding of programming. If I ask you, hey, build me a strength phase, let me review it for you, like, please try to put some effort into it. Make the Excel sheet look nice, be professional. That's going to help. And then, honestly, just talk to as many people as possible. You're going to have some bad conversations. Learn how to bounce back and be resilient from that, right? I had a strength coach of a major organization in that Tampa clinic that I went to, and people would be really surprised if I said the organization. He came up to me because he got mad because I didn't have business cards. Like, dude, I'm a broke grad assistant in South Florida. I don't have money for business cards. I barely got enough money to eat and pay rent, right? And he comes by later that night, and actually, I have a little pocket right here on the polo that I had. Interrupts the conversation of coaches that I'm talking to, throws his business card in there, smacks it as hard as he can, walks away with an ego, and just says, "Yeah, there's my business card, dude," and walks away. And every coach looked at him less for that. Don't be that guy.
Yeah. No, I get it. One thing I will say on top of that, if you are reaching out to a coach, and I've had this happen to me, do a basic research on them.
Yes.
Like, know what they're into, know what they're not into.
Mm-hmm.
Because like
Mm-hmm.
I've been invited in podcasts, and like you can tell that he had no idea who I was. He was just told to
Yeah.
interview me, and I'm
Yeah.
like
It's annoying.
my stuff isn't that hard to find. Like, I'm very
Yeah.
public.
You and I make ourselves. Yeah. I was about to say, you and I make ourselves very public. You've done a ton of work with Team Builder. You've done this podcast. It was not hard for me to find out who you were before we started talking. And also, I asked Rachel, what is his background when we first met? So that way I have some level of understanding. I've also written 100 blogs and been on like 25 podcasts. If you Google my name, you will find me. I'm the only Kosta Telegadas that comes up when you Google me, right? It's something that's very easy that I think is overlooked.
100%. And like, I'm the exact same. If you Google me, like, I'm there.
You're going to find out.
um,
And I'm not saying that to be cocky.
no,
It's
no,
just
no. But it's like, yeah,
do a little bit of research, just a little bit. It
like
helps.
if you're coming to me for just one single system, you've came to the wrong
Hmm.
person, because I'm going to talk your ear off as
Agreed.
to why that doesn't work, and I will
Hmm.
question every aspect of why you think that way. Like, I've had like
Absolutely.
I've stalked that conference, and again, I'm very much like, learn everything and be good at a bit of everything, and then make a program of that. Like it's the smartest way of doing it. But like a guy came up to
Be
me
good at everything,
conf
great at nothing.
yeah. A guy came up to me at a conference and he was like, I think you're doing speed development wrong. And I was like, cool. What made you what would you do differently? And he was like, well, I would focus my speed and acceleration in season. I was like, okay. Do you not think that's a bit late? And he was like, no, no, I think that's the
Hmm.
perfect time. I was like, all right, okay. Did you hear this or did you like, is this something you've applied? And he was like, no, no, I heard someone say it. And I was like, all right, okay. So then I asked him, like,
Oh,
if
that's
I told
frustrating.
you that the world was flat, would you believe me? And like, he kind of like took a second to think about because he knew I got him there, but he was like, yeah, I'd believe you. I was like, no,
Hmm.
that's fucking stupid. Don't do that.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
if you hear or learn something, experiment with it.
yes. Question it,
Question it. Like even something I say, question it. I would rather you
please.
question me, and if I know my shit, I should be able to justify it. If I don't know my shit, I'll
Hmm.
tell you, hey, let me actually get back to you and do some research first. Then I'll
Yeah,
give you an answer.
yeah.
But like it's yeah, like be questionable, but I also don't like die in the hill of someone else that you heard.
Yeah, like once again, when I first started out utilizing triphasic, I thought it was good, but not as great as it was. And then it was great, right? And then I was skeptical of it, right? It's the same way, whether it's politics, philosophy, religion, strength and conditioning, whatever it may be, question what you learn. And honestly, like take a step back. Who is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Does this person have the best interest for me? Like that's how I looked at it. Or they just have saying this because they have to give me something as part of a school-based curriculum internship. And there are people that teach a lot of outdated stuff. Right? I still know coaches who teach knees should not track over your toes when back squatting.
Mm-hmm.
You say, well, that's ridiculous. I'm not saying it has to go as far as a front squat, but if you're 6'3" like me and you're going ass to grass, yeah, you're going to have something track over your toes a little bit. I'm sorry, the femur length is just too long. So I would just tell people analyze where it's coming from, is this person someone that I want to be? Because some of the best internships I did were the coaches who taught me how not to be.
Mm-hmm.
They lost their temper. They got mad at small things. Great example. I used to freak out if there was a typo on an Excel sheet or I typed one thing wrong in an email because I was given no grace as an intern. You're wrong. You're bad. You're terrible. You suck. And whoever recommended you sucks. These were things that were actually said to me for those small things. But then I got to working with the guys I'm with now, and I made that mistake. And one of the guys called me into the bar, and we ended up having a conversation, right at the end of the day. And he's like, dude, it's all good. You make mistakes every day. Did you find it? Did you own it? Did you fix it without anyone telling you? Fantastic. Never happened then. And I think that was just the mind shift of learning what's important in this field, right? Yes,
100%.
do your research. Yes, learn the ideas. Yes, question it. But also have fun. Don't take yourself so seriously all the time. Get off your high horse, man. There are days where like I'll call Connor Freeland at O2X and we don't talk anything about programming at
Yeah.
all. We don't take stuff seriously, but it's our catch-up call for the month.
I think as well as like one of the biggest and most important lessons I learned from Coach Mac was one, how to own your mistakes, and B, by doing so, you show your athletes, clients, or anyone that you're working with, you're not a robot. Like, like it's okay to make the mistakes, own up to them. People will respect you a little bit more.
Doubling down and defending a hill that you want to die on is never a good professional look. And it makes you, once again, going back to that purist thing we said earlier, it makes you look like a purist for everything. I don't. I hire coaches. It's funny. When I was interviewing people, I would ask very like personal questions sometimes to see if I could get a rise out of them. Not in a bad way, right? But like there was a coach who did this to me. Great example. I was interviewing down in Texas for a job, and it was very. We had gone to the fourth round of interviews. They had brought six people, flown six people in for this. He asked me how my high school prom was, right? A high school dance that I had to invite a girl to, right? To see if he could just get a rise out of me real quick. That's hilarious. Now, most coaches would be like, well, that's really unprofessional. Well, no, it's showing we know you can do the job already. We've tested you up to this point. How are you as a person? Give me an authentic response. It was like, well, got a little drunk. He's like, sounds sick. And like that was fun. We all had a laugh, But it was stuff like that. While yes, some people may consider it unprofessional, I want to see who you are. I don't want people that are purists. I want people with scars who are authentic,
Mm.
who have learned from their mistakes, have can bring some different viewpoints to the table and question some stuff. Because I don't want to be told, I don't want to be a yes man for my entire staff. I want them to say, "Hey, coach, what do you think about this?" Sure, like let's put on the whiteboard and let's play with it. We have a free hour. Nobody's training. Guys are out doing their thing. Let's question it. I like those conversations. I live for those, right? And that goes for business. That goes for personal relationships. That goes, me, I'm a Christian. That goes for me looking at the Bible and being like, I don't know about this, man. Your interpretation of this. So I'm okay with that, but it comes down to having those personal conversations and people that are authentic, right? Because I would rather have the guy who a little more fratty, outgoing, and can build relationships than a guy who can come in and be a purist and, well, I only want to do this form of back squatting or this form of this, and this progression is the only one that matters because of this. And I use that voice because I've met people like that,
Hmm.
right? And I think that's just such a crucial thing. Just be authentic, man. Be relatable. Can I have a beer with you?
Yeah, and that's an important thing as well, because like we spend so much time together. I want to know that I can say, "Hey, how's your kids today?" And you'd be like, "Yeah, he's being a twat," right?
But that's huge. Like Connor Freeland and I mean, God bless him and his wife and his kid. They just had a kid. And our whole conversation was not about what he's doing at O2X or what I'm doing here. It's just, hey man, how are you? Like, oh man, sleep deprivation. Damn, that sucks. But or like, hey man, how about those Bears actually doing well in the NFL for once, huh? And my Commanders are sucking. You
Shout
know?
out to Roman Odunzo. He was at UW when I was there.
hmm
He's a bear. Fucking animal he is. He is
Oh
he
yeah,
is a
but
great
it's but
guy.
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
But like, we would joke about, hey, Lane Kiffin's just looking for his next sweetheart deal in coaching, for college football. Like there was a meme that I saw where like given recent geopolitical events with the US capturing Maduro and this is filmed, it was funny because it says Lane Kiffin looks to become president of Minnesota. And Lane Kiffin is known in collegiate football for like building up a good team and leaving right before he's about to win a championship because the LSU is calling him instead of Old Miss now you know but it's just like if you can't laugh at those dirty jokes, you're not going to fit in tactical in one, and two, you're not going to get along with me because I have a very dirty sense of humor. Doesn't mean we're not professional when we need to be, but if we're in the back office and it's just us, like, be willing to take some jokes, man. That's hilarious.
I think that's key as well. Like I'll be careful not to say names. But I
hmm
was in an internship and we were all in the office talking about supplements. Now, we're all aware that as countries progress and research gets made and um, athletic bodies take charge, some elements of supplements may be banned. So this was a supplement from a long time ago, and let's just say the pre-workout wasn't just pre-workout. There was extra stuff in there that is no longer legal to have
So some great stuff, I'm
in
sure.
supplements. And the coach was like, "Smell this." So like he opened his drawer, pulls out, makes me smell, and I
That's
get
so funny.
itchy. I get itchy smelling, and I'm like, "Fuck, what's in that?" He's like,
hmm
"You would not believe." I was like, "All right," but like it's those questions that like, for one, I gained a lot of respect from that coach because it was like
yeah.
it was just funny. Like it was just a raw moment that we had that was like we were speaking about something business, but it turned into like this joke and this thing, and like it caused like a light atmosphere in there, and like all the coaches joined in about supplements and other things that they've taken and how they
hmm
made it feel. Like getting the shits from pre workout, like that will
yeah,
always be funny.
that's always hilarious. I don't care what anybody says. Like, oh, I had one too many energy drinks, too many white monsters, right? Like, got to run to the bathroom real quick. Had too many cups of coffee, right? But one of the funniest things I think we had was we used to play jokes on some of the guys too, right? Whether you're in athletics or tactical, wherever, they've never done like smelled smelling salts before,
Mm.
right? Right, and you know that from being a lifter and me as well. So like, hey, dude, come over here. Like, take a big whiff of this. Like, we don't know what's in this, man. Can you pen this? And they put it right up to their nose and just pull it, and they would be, oh, what is that? Oh my god! Like, and it's just funny because like, gotcha, There's a smelling salts. Like,
Yeah.
why would you do this? Like, and then 2 seconds later, they're fine. you know?
Yeah.
But it's just stuff like that is really funny. We do that to interns, right? Rite of passage. There are certain things that I think if you just have good humor on in this field,
Hmm.
right? Like anyone who says putting on
It's
Metallica or AC/DC and squatting and lifting a 5 rep to 1 rep max is not awesome. You please don't become on my staff. I like that sometimes. It's fun.
I think it's also that team bonding element. Like, there's nothing better than a group lifting session. Like, it's just coaches. Like, they might be doing their individual programs, but everyone's just getting after it. Like, I remember watching Coach Mac lift, and like he's notorious for just lifting himself. Like, he joined in the group lift, and he was doing box squats. And like after he finished his set, I helped him put his weight away, and I was like, Coach, I think you forgot 2 plates at the other end. You don't want to put them in before you pack in. And he like kind of looked at me and laughed a little bit because like he had the fucking whole bar loaded. And I was like, hey, there's there's a couple across there. Do you not want to like chuck those on too?
Yeah, yeah. There was a time when I was at Longwood and Rick Canner was there, and he's hilarious. He was one of my favorite people to work with when I first started off in this field. And I had like a little banana. I'm in the corner, like on my little, DIY made desk, right? Because we didn't have enough tables in there. And I'm eating a banana, right? And I'm done with the banana. It's like, get on the weight, lift some, like, get on the bar, lift some weight. Just smacks that banana. He's like, go get yourself a real sandwich, And like that was funny, And we had a close enough relationship. Like that was hilarious. He just come off, hitting a 500-pound squat or whatever it was, and he was amped up, and that was just hilarious. And
Mm-hmm.
there's moments like that that help build a staff together. And that initial like Longwood University staff for my second year there, I would, man, if I could create my own staff from scratch, that is just like, yes, I would love to bring back those training memories, right? Where we would just show up on a Saturday or stay after work, turn the lights off, crank up the Metallica, and everyone was lifting their own programs, but everyone was getting after it and getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
I
one
think
hundred
that's very
percent.
important for a staff to do. Yeah.
We were also talking in the lobby, and it's something I kind of want to bring back our conversation to, and it's securing funding for different
Hmm.
aspects of what we do as a business and as coaches.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So I would say for, let's say in the tactical setting, because that's what I've done most of my funding stuff with right now. When I was at Exos, a lot of it was done for us and allocated to us, and then we just picked the equipment we wanted within the brands that were associated with Exos. So there's some stuff that will be taken care of for you. When I was at Miami, we were in Adidas school, so all the clothing and shoes were going to be Adidas. So we couldn't control that, right? But we control the racks we got, right? What fit in, measuring it out. A good thing with your interns would to be to work with them as the head coach and play, okay, guys, look, this is how much funding we got. What equipment do you think we should get? I want ideas, right? And that gives them the autonomy to go be creative and get it for you, right? And then on top of that, we sit down as a staff, you go through it, you red ink some stuff out, you maybe add some more stuff in together once everyone's done their research, and then you put a whole list together and then measure it out together in the weight room. That's fun because you're allowing them to help create your weight room too. Doesn't mean they're perfect. You get the final say on everything as the head coach, but it gives them that autonomy and that ability to go research, right? So that's one side of it. The other side on tactical, where you're not always guaranteed funding, you might need to go to other departments that have leftover funds, build those relationships with people and say, hey, I really need this. Do you have anything left over for the year? Or if other people where I'm at currently, other coaches that are here have leftover equipment they're looking to get rid of, hey, can we bring that over here? That's ways to save funding and build relationships and gain more funding all in one little tidbit of advice right there. But there are times where like, hey, if a group has, 10 grand left over, they want to give it to us, sweet, what can we get with that? Right? Because we have to spend it by the end of the year no matter what. Do we need more cleaning supplies? That's stuff that we're going to prioritize on our end for sanitation. Then obviously, what parts of the equipment need to be maintained? What's that going to cost? Cool, we're going to do that on this side. Then on the last side of it is, hey, do I want to get a reverse hyper or do I want another assault bike? Do I want a better sled or do I want to build out some better flooring here? And how much is that going to cost us? But the way I look at it is sanitation and flooring first, right? Because you can just add equipment and subtract equipment for add and subtract from that. Then I would say come in, add your big pieces of equipment that are going to take up the most space. That we call it your fixed equipment. So like you cannot move this once it is set in. Okay, cool. Then add in where your dumbbells, some extra benches, your turf, your sleds are going to go, and then where your super portable piece of equipment go that you can now take outside. right? Your assault bikes, your skiers, your C2 rowers, your medicine balls, your kettlebells, right? And then where does that fit in? And then also, how do you transition from indoors to outdoors? Do you have a garage door you can open? Is it just one door? One of those amazing things they do in college where it's all in one giant building and you have the luxury of just walking over to the field, 2 meters over outside of the weight room. Because I would kill for that right now. But understanding those scenarios and how you can apply them is going to be huge. So going back, just to recap it for your audience, having sanitation and flooring, right? Your non-negotiables. Then and maybe let's add like HVAC, aircon, heating and cooling and plumbing if you have bathrooms and you're in the private sector. So you're not so your must needs over here for the building. Then looking at your main equipment areas, your Olympic lifting platforms, your racks, your fixed equipment, your semi-portable equipment, and then your hyper-portable equipment, right? Stuff that you can move over nonstop and change. So that's how I look at funding. That's how I look at even organizing a facility when doing that.
On that, there's a wide range now on what S&C means for different aspects. So you could be anything from like high school where the funding is quite limited
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
Power 5 or SEC schools where all the money is there. How do you ensure, or like what checklists do you go through to make sure that you're getting the most bang for your buck?
I think it starts with advocating to whoever your leadership is. If it's at an SEC school, it's going to be your athletic director, right? Who's going to get that funding, most likely from the president of the school, right? I think that's where it starts having that good relationship and then really analyzing how much do you really need. Yes, we'd love to have more. We'll go 10% over our budget every time because that's kind of a rule of thumb that I was taught, and then exit stuff out of, and red line some stuff out of there afterwards. I would say if you're at a local high school, getting in touch with your boosters is going to be important and donations. Even like to get muscle milk in the weight room. You could use some of the funding to buy a small fridge, and if your county and state laws allow it for athletics, go off and get muscle milk for the athletes. If you are able to train people during the summer and they want to, or they're able to come use the school's weight room, especially if you're in a private school, like a private Christian school or wherever that is doing that, there's not a lot of private sector performance gyms around. You could sell that muscle milk or sell pieces of equipment out there for them. You could also go in and advocate with your school's athletic director and say, hey, what's our funding look like for the year? And then going back to that priority model of, okay, sanitation and flooring first, building off of that, right? I would then say if you are able to use that weight room during the summer for other activities, building out training programs for the local other schools that don't have those opportunities, or even as a coach for yourself, let's say you have your LLC in conjunction with the school, you can go through, and this is going back to those business elements that we've discussed previously, taking a cut, giving it of your profits, giving it to the school, and you now are allowed to film content for your inside business inside the school. But in exchange for doing that and training people there after hours, or maybe during the summer when there's not a lot of people there, or running speed clinics or a number of different things, right? They can get 10%, 15% of the profits that you make from that 3 month, 6 month, whatever period, whatever you agree upon with the school. It's kind of like rents always do. So make sure if you're using the school's equipment, give them a cut of the money you make. If it's just for social media filming, 5% I think is a good number, right? If it's for social media camps and some other stuff that you're running, private sector clients as well, somewhere between 10 and 15 I think is reasonable for that as well. So those are creative ways to get funding, and also logistical ways and common ways from athletics or tactical with whatever leadership you have to get funding as well.
How do you ensure that the equipment that you are buying or wanting to buy it not only fits within the budget, can serve a multiple purpose for the price that you're getting? So like for example, if I have say 5k left over, but I personally really want force plates, but jump mats are cheaper and I can get something else on top of that. Like how do you, like what checklist or how do you ensure those priorities are met within staying on budget and getting the most out of the
Mm-hmm.
equipment that you're buying?
Well, you have to look at what you're using it for, I think, first and foremost. So a lot of schools, especially in the SEC and ACC and these power whatever schools, maybe professional teams, will get force plates, right, to run certain things for. but they don't even know the data they're collecting half the time. They're really looking for one or two data points, not the 20 or so that the force plates provides. So if something like a plyomat is cheaper and is within a 90-95% accuracy range as far as the data goes, yes, the plyomat wins every single time. But if you have a full sports science department that wants to use that data for also, studies, and you're getting grants for research from that as well, and on top of that, you are able to use those extra 10 or 20 data points to help build out a program, yes, then the force plates make more sense if they're only going to be $5,000 in that case. Just to give you a practical example from there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. Because like, again, I I only buy equipment that I can justify and serves a multiple purpose sort of checking boxes. So like, again, I look at things practically and what I program. Like, I once used, those like old school step ups where like it's like you build it
Yeah.
up through levels and then you've got I turned
Mhm.
that, I put cowbells in it, I attached the battle rope, and I made a sled pull. Like, would having a sled be easier? Yes, but space, money wasn't there. So like that done for the time being. So like I've always been interested on how people, or coaches, I should say, create their systems based on a budget to space and how they can justify buying this equipment with what they have.
Yeah, and I'll give you two good examples. We actually cut out, because I have a size 14 shoe in America, which is a massive foot, essentially, right? So we actually took cardboard. We cut out square parts of like giant leftover cardboard from other shipments. And we made sliders with those. They would go out in the hallway in the high school settings because we didn't have money to get the skills sliders or the Sornex leg
Leg curl.
curl on the floor with the roll. Yeah, the leg curl on there. So those are ways you can do it. I would also say like we put towels on the floor, and if the floor was slick enough, we would stack that with one or two plates, and they would push that, right? So those are ways you can do like a poor man's sled. Or if you don't have a sled and you have the great outdoors, go lunge 200 meters and lunge back 200 meters, right? That is more than what doing a sled will do as far as the pump you will get in your quads, right? So there are ways around that as well, but those are just some like poor man's DIY ways of doing that as well with the equipment you have. I've had guys like if they have problems with pelvic tilts, as an example, like I'm not huge on it, but it does have some influence to low back injury. So I'll have them put a 45-pound plate above their head, lock out their arms, and you're gonna walk 100 meters. Or sorry, not walk, excuse me, lunge 100 meters. And that is a great way, if I don't have a sled or other lower body variations that I can do, doing that, right? They also can create a competitive atmosphere, especially when tactical, if you're working with guys, you can use that as a competition. Who can do that in the shortest amount of time during that day or that week, whatever it may be. There's a million ways to do that, but as far as the funding goes, I mean, do it yourself is going to be an option. Strength coaches need to get good with no matter what because of funding. But if you're in a situation like you are, you can have a mixture of that plus some external funding. And then in a situation like I am, where you have whole facilities built out for you and you have some extra funding coming in, you can go back to those models of sanitizing floor, not non-negotiables in that one bucket, fixed equipment, semi-movable equipment, and then hyper-movable equipment in those cases.
Costa, I really appreciate your time today. This was a fun
Appreciate you.
conversation. If you would like to let people know where they can sort of reach you and contact you to ask any further questions, I also want you to promote the course that you have with Strength Coach Network, and if you can sort of list out everything that you're doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if people want to find me, my email is Coach Kosta Telegadas. It's all one word at gmail.com. So Coach Kosta Telegadas at gmail.com. We'll put that, I'll send that over to you to put in the description of this episode. Also, Instagram is Coach_Telegadas, right? That'll also be here as well. You can put that up on the screen right there. Boom. From there, I will give you that. And then the course Justin Lehman I did for Strength Coach Network was the Strength Coach Network Entrepreneurship course. This is a base, it's anywhere from $80 to $125 depending on what time of year you buy it, right? And it will give you the fundamentals of four about 40-minute long presentations plus a ton of bonus documents to utilize for your side business. And it's really going to be bang for your buck on that. You can use code COSTA20, all caps Costa, and then 20 at the end, all one word, to get 20% off on that. And we'll inside of this episode for you guys as well. But that will at least get you a good fundamental understanding of everything for entrepreneurship, give you the ability to do it with social media or without social media, because I can't use a lot of social media with my contracted role right now. And yeah, it's going to be awesome. It'll teach you the fundamentals from starting up an LLC to finance to how to utilize AI and save your time, and then how to go out there and get clients and craft deals and craft contracts as well, like Maddie and I have talked about today.
I'm just trying to pull up your course. I'm having a
Hmm.
bit of a hard time finding it.
I can email it to you real quick too if you need.
Yeah, if we do that, because yeah, I can't find it within the website. But that's perfect. I should have everything in the description as well. So if you just keep an eye on that, you can get access to his stuff, and he's also included the promo code. I'll include that as well if you want to check it out. I personally am in the process of wanting to get it. I just need to figure out a couple things
Hmm.
with my funding.
Of course, of course. And also, I would like to preface and end on this, if you don't mind, Manny. Any coach that reaches out to me, I will get back to you. I promise. It might take me 24 hours because where I'm located currently around the globe, but you will have a response from me. And if you do want to hop on a call with me, I would love to hop on a call with you, talk about strength and conditioning, programming, life over here on the tactical side, all the way to learning about strength and conditioning, business fundamentals, and entrepreneurship. Would love to have coaches call me. Please reach out to me.
Perfect. I appreciate it, Costa.
Appreciate you, Maddie. Thank you so much for the time today, mate.